I came across a TikTok, and this TikTok said, hey, do you want to make money in real estate without any credit and without any cash? And I went to my wife and I was like, babe, check this out. You should try this. And she was like, no. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. And so I went to my mom and I was like, Mom, I've joined this Discord. I'm trying to learn this thing about like real estate. So I was like, I'm thinking about doing this thing. And she goes, that's what I do, right? And I was like, what do you mean? And she goes, I work at a hedge fund and I work with wholesale. I purchase properties from wholesalers. Little did I know she was one of the 5 acquisitionists at Amherst.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us for today's episode of Real Estate Disruptors. Today we've got Devin Robinson with the Installment Method, and Devin flew in from Charlotte, North Carolina to talk about how to wholesale in 2024. Now, I'm on a mission to create 100 millionaires. The information on the show alone is enough to help you become a millionaire in the next 5 to 7 years. If you'll take consistent action, you will become one. And the show is brought to you by our sister company, InvestorLift. Get access to millions of cash buyers across the country. Go to investorlift.com, put in Disruptors to get 10% off. And guys, if you get value out of today's show, please hit that subscribe button. That way we can all grow together. You ready?
Let's get it.
All right. So first question is, what was your life like right before you got into real estate?
Ooh, okay. Right before real estate. That's a good question. People are always like, oh, what was your life like when you were a kid growing up?
Yeah.
Right before real estate was really interesting. So I am on and I have a spreadsheet for this. It's kind of funny. I got a spreadsheet. I'm on my 16th venture, 8th business. And I put as a venture, sometimes I'll put a course that I've done before or YouTube or a podcast. I think that's you put effort into it. That's a venture. But my 8th business, some have crashed and burned, some I've sold, so I'm coming out of a wedding photography company. So I owned a wedding photography company, but not oh, that's cute. You take photos. That's nice. And I'm really thankful. I was able to build this up to probably top 1% of wedding photographers in the world. Probably. I spoke at conferences around the world, photographed weddings in 26 different countries around the world, photographed celebrities, you name it, at the Biltmore, you name it. So really interesting. It was a really cool experience. My wife and I got to travel to every island and a bunch of countries and do that stuff. So it was good for that season of life. But then once we started fostering kids and settling down, weddings are all nights and weekends. And so it just kind of sucked, honestly, to get videos of my kids being night night daddy, and so then I don't know how much you wanted to go into this, geez, but there was a season where my son played baseball, and baseball, all his games were on Saturdays, but all weddings are on Saturdays. And so I went to his first baseball game, and it was fun and it was awesome because I played baseball in college. I want my son. He's 6 years old and he's 4'4", so he's a massive child. And so I want him to be athletic and love these things. But I went to that first game and I had weddings for the rest of the summer and missed every single game. And he didn't even make it to the end of the season. He quit 3 or 4 games in. And so for me, I was if I was there, would he have quit? And so I just, at that point, I was this is not the lifestyle for me. I want to work a 9 to 5, take my kids. So I have non-negotiables now. I take my kids to school every other day, and then I pick them up from school every day. It's a non-negotiable. All my company knows if they call me at this time, I'm literally with my kids in the car. So don't call me. And so
I like that. So I have people when they call me, it's are your kids in the car?
Yeah.
Because they know.
Yeah, that's right.
We're chaperoning between from either piano to kung fu or whatever. They just know that I'm in the middle of chaperoning.
Yeah.
With the kids. So you talked about a photography business. I mean, let's talk about you say a business.
Yeah.
This is not a side hustle. This is not.
Oh no.
This is not something that you're just doing on the weekends. You're an operation.
Oh yeah. So I had 15 photographers at 7 different states at one point. We were doing 130 weddings a year, and my average cost for my photographers was around $6,000 a wedding. The average cost for me is $15,000 a wedding. So no, this is not this is all I did.
Yeah, and you were talking to me about this. It was crazy, to justify you going out to another country.
Yeah,
there has to be significant cost.
Yeah.
So you were saying just to fly to Paris.
Yeah.
What are you charging for you to go fly to Paris?
Yeah. So typically it would be my regular package collection, which they're when I finished, my packages were 9,000, but nobody ever booked that one because it was like, you don't get anything for that. The next one was like 12,000 and then, or 12,500. And the next one was 21,000. And so 21,000 included a lot of the flights and stuff like that. But if people didn't go with that one, then it would be whatever the cost of flying there, plus the accommodations, and then plus like a day rate. Because like when I go internationally, I'm gone for 5 days. And that sucks, be away from my family for 5 days. If I'm like stateside, I'm gone for 3 days. But internationally is just like a whole different thing because I don't want to fly. I could tell you some crazy stories of me flying to other countries and flights getting delayed or whatever. So like it's like I'm not flying in the day before the wedding because what if I miss the wedding? That would suck. And I've had some very close calls. So it's pretty expensive.
Who's the most famous person you did for a wedding?
I actually did a lot of professional athletes. So cool guy, Charlie Blackmon plays for the Rockies, Craig guy. Walker Buehler for the Dodgers. I'm a diehard Dodgers fan. Got the tattoo right here. Walker Buehler, another Rockies pitcher. So mostly like professional baseball players.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about the Dodgers. I think we swept you guys in the playoffs this year, but it's no big deal. That's just in the past. It's fine.
Wait, who's your team again? Oh, the Diamondbacks. Oh my gosh, please.
So, all right. So you saw what was happening with your son, and you saw that this is not lining up with what you wanted to do. How profitable was the wedding business before you shut it down?
Good question. So I think we were operating at like 70% profit margins because like really it comes down to time. I was outsourcing a lot of the editing to an outsourcing agency, and then I would just pay my people for the time that they were there. So like let's say I had a $6,000 wedding, probably about $3,000 of that is $3,000 of that one specifically is going to be expenses, whether it be from the editors to paying my contracted photographers and then storage, stuff like that. But then if I'm shooting a wedding, then the profit margins are significantly higher because then all I'm paying for is the storage and the editing. Whereas, this is funny that we're talking about this. Whereas like, and then I'm paying myself. So, and that comes out of a salary from the company. So the profit margins are much higher when I book myself. But yes.
But like, you're making like six figures,
multiple six figures? Yeah. Oh yeah. I try not to be too crazy, but my salary was six figures for sure doing that.
Okay. Because just for context, right? Because for someone that's shut down a lucrative business that, like you got all your dopamine hits. You're speaking at events. You were running conferences. Yeah. There's a lot of dopamine there.
There is.
You feel pretty good about yourself. So to walk away from something where you have reputation and money, it's not a small feat.
That's true.
So what was that like making that transition?
Great question. For me, it came down to the lifestyle I wanted. Really to be able to have, and this is also really funny. So I love doing a bunch of different things and I always have my hands in a bunch of different things. And I'm learning now to scale that down, to be really intentional and direct my life in a certain way for a vision that I have. But at the time, I was running this business and it was kind of getting like, because I'd been doing it for 5 or 6 years. And I actually had a boss once tell me, he was like, Devin, I don't think you'll ever work for one person for longer than 5 years. And I was like, well, we'll see. I did quit that job when they were trying to give me a promotion. So he's probably right. But I was getting to that 5-year range, I guess I would say, in that business. And it just kind of got to where it was like, there's not really any more way I can go in this. It's a wedding photography company. You can't, unless I scale up the more amount of people that I have in the company and all of that, which is like, you can only charge so much for a wedding. You can only do this. And so I came across a TikTok, and this TikTok said, hey, do you want to make money in real estate without any credit and without any cash? And I was like, I went to my wife and I was like, babe, check this out. You should try this. And she was like, no. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. And so because of TikTok, I got introduced to like real estate wholesaling, and we took off so fast that it was a little bit scary. And I'll give you a little bit of a secret why. So I went to my mom and I was like, Mom, I've joined this Discord. I'm trying to learn this thing about like real estate because like I've gotten to this point in wedding photography. I want to start looking into real estate. Real estate is like, it seems like the next natural progression to investing when you got a little money. So I was like, I'm thinking about doing this thing. And she goes, that's what I do, right? And I was like, what do you mean? And she goes, I work at a hedge fund and I work with wholesale. I purchase properties from wholesalers. Little did I know she was one of the like 5 acquisitionists at Amherst. So, so I was like, oh, interesting. So then she was like, you should just do this. You should go on Zillow for sell by owner, and you should, man, this is a heck of a story. You should go on Zillow for sell by owner, start negotiating them, and then like you can sell them to us. And I was like, fantastic. Let me go ahead and start doing that. So then I started doing it. It started working. So I got together with some of my friends, and I was like, guys, this is incredible. I think we're making $20,000 a house, because that's the most that a hedge fund will let you do. So we're anywhere between like $7,000 and $10,000 a house. And I was like, guys, I've got the plug. So all you do, you guys go negotiate these with these Zillow for sell by owner people. And then I've got the connection. I'll give you 50%. Little did I know, like this would turn into a huge business. So we did, in the first 6 months, we did 70 deals. So it grew very fast. So in 6 months, we did like $700,000. And like, I didn't even know what the heck wholesaling was. And I was giving away the farm. I didn't realize it was quickly going to turn into a business. So then it started taking up a lot of my time, but I saw it to be like significantly better and easier and more like better on my time than wedding photography. So I actually did not exit very well at all from that wedding photography company. I was just like, okay, no, I'm done. And like cold turkey kind of just like stopped and let the people that I did have SOPs built out and stuff, but not as well as I do now. And so then it started just slowly declining until I sold it. And so, because it's still like in my area in Charlotte, it's still one of the largest. I haven't touched it in 2 years, and the sale is just finalizing. And so like, it's still one of the largest wedding photography companies in Charlotte, and I haven't touched it in 2 years. And so the transition happened, but the thing that really affected me was that I was giving away the farm to my friends, because I didn't realize it was going to actually turn into a business. And I was paying for CG and doing all these expenses while they were taking literally 50% of gross revenue from everything we brought in. So they're living it up. I had acquisition people making like $80K in 3 months. And so they were living it up. And they were some of my best friends as well, which made this extremely difficult, because I brought in my business partner, Carl, and we just realized quickly, like, hey, this is not sustainable. We can't do this. So then and I'm really thankful, was in Collective Genius, still am, was in Collective Genius, and was like, hey guys, what's the normal rate for an acquisition person? What does that look like? Because I'm paying 50%, And they're like, oh, what? You're an idiot. So then I went back to my friends, because I think
you and I had this conversation as well.
I think we did on the phone. Yeah. I think we did. Cause like, I was actually like, whoa, thanks for Facebook messaging me back and giving me your phone number. And so I do remember that. And I was super thankful for that conversation. So we all got together. They lived in San Diego. We got together, and I was like, guys, I can't pay you this much. And they're like, no, Devin, we love you. We know, like, we're good friends. We're in for you, whatever you want. And I was like, listen, most like acquisition people get paid 8, 12, not even really 15%. Maybe. And so I was like, but I'll do like 20% for you guys. And they were just like, no. And it really was hard, because in that moment, like, these people that we thought we were going to, like our best friends, we were going to move to San Diego, be a part of something with them. And they were really good friends with us. They ended up completely turning on me. And one of them kept doing that stuff with my mom, like, without me. And so like, it was just really a tough season to see like my friends do that. And then what happened after that was the market started crashing. Like the market started going down, hedge funds stopped buying, everything started like drying up. And then I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I really didn't. I had to lay off my staff. We had no more. So from July to October, 70 deals. And then from November to February, 4 deals. And so like literally jumped right off of a table, crashed and burned. And I didn't know what to do. And so I had to lay off my staff. And I remember the one thing that I knew in my heart of hearts was like, this is worth it though. Like I could have quit. I could have gone back to what I knew was comfortable. I could have gone back to wedding photographer, but like this was it. And not because like, oh, the money seems like it's good, but I think there's a unique opportunity to scale impact when you get into something that like real estate. And you can be able to build generational wealth with it. You can be able to affect the world with it. You could be able to do so many things that I was like, this is it. This is what I want to dedicate and work really hard on. So I spent the next 6 months literally head down building out SOPs. And one of the biggest ways that because the reason I was able to do that was because I had people in a mastermind helping me through that. So I wasn't like on it by myself, because I think a smart person learns from their own mistakes, but a wise person learns from others' mistakes. And so being able to have people around me that can help me with those mistakes was really, or maybe help me not go through those mistakes or help me recover from my mistakes, was significantly like just kind of one of the best things that I ever had for me.
Do you remember which TikTok video?
Oh, I know exactly the TikTok video. Happy Super Bowl Sunday, guys. My name is Tom Cruise, and this is how you scale Section 8. So, like, this is exactly...
But that's not even wholesale. That's Section 8.
I know it isn't. But, like, he had this Discord, and then, like, it got me into the... I just know it. It got me into, like, the mindset of getting into real estate investing, because part of it, too, was, like... Part of his whole pitch on that too is like, oh, and then if you want to, like, to cash flow, you can just wholesale this off to somebody else. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I joined the Discord, and then my mom intersected and was like, this is what I do.
Yeah.
Here's wholesaling.
Yeah, Tom Cruise. So it's funny, right? You're looking at this guy. He went viral.
I mean,
not that long ago.
A lot.
But he's like, yeah, you know, like I'm not gonna like when we plan our vacations, we don't ask these people because they're poor.
Yeah,
right.
He did do that because he's got a spreadsheet of his friends and his friends on how much they could spend on vacation. Like, would they be able to spend this much? Like, do they have the time from work to do it? And so they don't. Ask
that
people.
one. I mean, he actually took that one down because he caught so much heat for it. But when you talk about like, if you want to have like a soft flex, it worked. And like you bring it up here, but I've had a couple people like, you know, what do you think of this guy's like? I'm not gonna tell the guy runs a legitimate business, right?
Yeah, he really does.
He might seem goofy, right? But he's not saying anything that sounds wrong.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get in there, you crush it. Was Carl part of your organization at this time?
So he wasn't part of it while we were crushing it, and so it's so
he
funny.
only got to see like the sloppy what was available.
Yeah, that's exactly
after
right.
the crash.
That's exactly right. And it's funny because we joke because it was all fine till you came in here, Carl. But like. He's been incredible for me, still with me, and then we have other businesses together as well. And so it's just been, he is an incredibly smart, he actually is a guy who and this is one of the cool things about our fund. Like I run a fund. This is the first time I'm mentioning this on the podcast, but we have a goal too, to be the largest minority owned real estate fund in America. I'm Black and Middle Eastern. I'm going to say it on the podcast. I joke. That's like one of the two worst things to be in America, Black and Middle Eastern. And so like I'm Black and Middle Eastern. I love, and I love that heritage. And I actually just
the Robinsons from the Middle Eastern side.
That's exactly right. The Robinsons. Yeah. And then I have a black, my other partner is Black, 6'9". We call ourselves D-Robin Big because he's huge. We went to college together. And then you've got Carl, who is a South African immigrant who immigrated here during the apartheid. So like we are minorities that run this fund, and it's really cool to have Carl because he's incredibly intelligent, never had a B in his life on anything. He's a genius, and so it's cool to have him part of like what we've done. But we joke that he's the reason it all crashed and burned.
Well, he definitely operates in the genius zone. I can see that, right? Having listened to him present a collective genius, he's definitely living inside that genius zone.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Okay, so you crash and burn. Your friends have gone different directions. So what was it like then picking the pieces back up, right? Because this is last year. Yeah,
this is 2022. Yeah, beginning of 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it all happened.
When the fund stopped buying.
That's right.
So then what did you do when the funds stopped buying?
So I just knew that in my like heart of hearts that, I don't even know what that phrase means, but anyways, in my heart of hearts, I knew that like, this is it. It's real estate. I'm this far in it. I understand real estate. I just need to put my head down and push past this. And so for me, for the next 6 months, I just spent time searching and decide like, what is real estate wholesaling? How do I do this? And how do I actually build out systems and processes? So like, if you knew me in college or before this business, I am the outgoing, not system and processes, fly by the edge of my seat. Now, if you know me now, it's interesting. In Select, people come to me for like building out systems and processes for them. And so like, I just took on this whole role of like what I needed to be. And I use this phrase, for us, for now. So for us, for now, I needed to be in the position to where like I'm building this thing out to have a really strong foundation so that once we have money or once we have whatever, then we can build off a solid foundation. So then 6 months go by. I'm sitting in a room in CG, and this guy named Michael Frankie gets up and he gives a presentation on foreclosures.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I don't have a whole lot of money to put into marketing right now. I had one cold caller, but I realized I had no sales process. Which without a sales process, who cares if you got a cold caller? Like,
Right.
if you don't have a sales process, hire freaking Steve so you can get a sales process, because it doesn't matter what your marketing does if you have no idea how to close people. So that's the phase I was in.
Mm-hmm.
Built out the systems and processes, sweet. Got the processes going. Let's start our marketing, sweet. And then we got our marketing, and I was like, yo, we're getting leads, and I have no idea how to close these people.
Mm-hmm.
So then Michael gives this presentation on foreclosures, and Carl, wise in who he is, he was like, this is it, Devin. It's foreclosures. Like, this is what we need to be doing. This is what we need to pivot to. And I was like, but I just got this cold calling stuff. Give me a little bit. So I started building out, right after Michael gave that presentation, I started building out the foreclosure SOP. Full foreclosure. I took his presentation, built out a full SOP based off of his presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And then was still trying to do my cold calling thing and wasn't closing anything. And then I took and then I started learning a lot more about sales process. So like I started learning from you on sales and processes. I started learning from Eric Klein on sales and processes. I started learning from Ren on sales and processes, and like how to build that out and what would be applicable for what we were doing. And then we went all in foreclosures. So that was June that he gave that presentation. And I would say the beginning of August, we went all in on foreclosures. And then like I built out a very robust marketing to foreclosures operation, and we scaled very quickly on that, which was really cool.
What was that robust operation?
Okay, great. Yeah. So I'm happy. Like I said, like very open book. I'll give it all. So one of the things that we did was we built out cold calling. So we do foreclosures in 4 different states now. So I had a cold caller for each state that was going through and dialing. We had a dialer that would dial twice a week to all the foreclosure listings. We learned how to go to the foreclosure attorneys to get the most up-to-date information, all that stuff. So we weren't using like batch leaks to pull our data. I had a VA pulling off of foreclosure sites every single day. And then I would put that onto a spreadsheet. And then I had a batch dialer twice a week that would call the spreadsheet on the different states. But then I would have a cold caller for each state manually on Google Voice calling each of those, because we seem to have a much higher rate of connectivity on those, or whatever the rate is called. We had a much broader connecting rate on that. Then I also had all of my acquisitions sending text videos to each foreclosure that we had on the list. And that was extremely powerful for those text videos, because also you have an iPhone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Steve, let's say you get a text message and it comes in green. What do you think?
Android.
Okay, Android.
Or a PC or a scam.
Or a spam or a business or something like that. And so one of the things that I found that like there's a psychological trust that comes to with a blue text message. Mm-hmm. If you have an iPhone and it's blue, if you don't know the number, you go, who is this? Do I know this person? Because you know they're real. And so for us, I had all my people using iPhones, and then I still do. I have them all using iPhones. I have them sending text videos, and then they'll send text as well, or text pictures, just kind of depending. And then one of the things we also know that is when we put that phone number in an iPhone and it comes up blue as well, we know that's a working number. We know that's a real working number. So then we can like target that phone number if we need to. Mm-hmm. So we really built out the systems and processes for doing that effectively, and that scaled us pretty quickly. And we were doing some pretty big deals, and we still do.
So when we did that some time ago, because this is when texting got a little bit harder a couple years back, and deliverability rate went down. So we just got burner phones, right? Nice. And we were sending text messages, not from iPhones, but from a MacBook.
Yeah.
So we got a MacBook so we can just text them all. And we found a limit to how many text messages you could send per day from your Apple ID.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. We have not found that.
I don't know. I don't remember what it was, but I was like, man, we got this workaround. No, we don't.
But I wonder if it's because, were you doing like niche data, or were you doing still?
I think we were using, at this time, I think we were hitting all the people that were on criminal, civil complaints. So criminal complaints, civil complaints, or what's the third thing? But it's a list that's
Shut-offs?
It's a list that's not generally available. Like we had to go through the city.
Interesting.
And we started a whole like nonprofit and everything to
Your real workaround.
to get this list.
Hopefully that list was worth it.
At the end of the day, it's been an incredible ROI, but it's not scalable.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So, all right. So, using your iPhone, you're texting, you're sending video messages.
Yeah, that's like the most powerful one. We would get grown men, like when we go on our appointments, grown men crying, being like we had a guy, distinctly remember, in the Army, older guy, grown man, be like, it felt like you guys cared about me. Like it felt like it was like nobody else. And we're not pitching like sell your house. We're pitching like, let us help you to escape foreclosure, And so then we walk through that pitch and whatever that is. And so for him, he felt like we actually valued and cared about him when he was in one of the darkest times of his life and didn't know who he could turn to. So those videos were like huge for that.
Yeah. So it's funny because Michael Franke gives his presentation, right?
Yeah.
And John Kleisch
Yep.
is in my market,
Love John.
right? Also CD Select.
Mm-hmm.
And so we bought this property. That was pre-foreclosure.
Uh-oh.
But even though we didn't buy this property, sorry, we recorded memorandum of this property. So whatever happened in the county, we became the official owner on public records, even though we didn't actually own it.
Okay. Interesting.
Right. So when he's skip tracing the homeowner, he's getting my cell phone.
Steve got a foreclosure video.
And so I got this foreclosure video from John Kleisch. I was like, what is this? Like, this is brilliant. I love it. It's like, oh, something I took from Michael Franke, so which is cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Fantastic.
So obviously, Michael, when you're watching this, like
Michael's the GOAT.
that presentation obviously had a big impact. I mean, you talked about it. You talked about it here. I received it from Jimmy Reeland, one of the guys on PTD. He's like, he redid everything in his operations based off that presentation from Michael. So
it's fantastic.
I guess we're going to have Michael on the show.
You got to have him on. And the good thing about him, he'll come and he'll give all of the value that he can.
Yeah.
So, which is what I love about him.
So, all right. So you go back and you say, okay, this is it. Foreclosures. I love you. It's like you went straight to the source, right? A lot of us are getting data from data providers, which is nothing wrong with it. It's just, there's a time delay.
That's right. That's
Right.
exactly right. The time delay.
Yeah. So you're getting it fresh.
Muddies the water.
Muddies the water. So you're getting as fresh as possible and you're sending video messages. So you got cold callers, you got sending video messages. So then what does your business look like after you execute this process?
Cool. So for us then I actually started building out KPIs, like understanding exactly. So we had a huge spreadsheet of like what the KPIs, because like that's also not very trackable. So I had to build out a way to make it trackable. And
especially because it's not in Salesforce.
It's not in
Someone's
Salesforce.
iPhone.
It's somebody's iPhone. And so then I had to create spreadsheets that were like, every time they click, so like it was like, hey guys, you have this up, just click a dot. When you click a dot, it adds all the dots up and then it puts it in the column on how many dots there are when you send a thing. So like definitely the honor system on it, but like I tried to make it as simple as I possibly could for them.
The dot.
Just click, you could click any key and it counts that as a keystroke and then it puts it in the column and it counts, there's 40 keystrokes, the number is 40. And so then like built out a huge KPI spreadsheet for them to have it. So then we became scalable to understand like, what are the targets that we have to hit? And so we started hitting 200K months pretty quickly after that, which I'm super thankful for. And so
their company provided iPhones or their iPhones?
Company provided. So if you're a guy, you use your own iPhone until you get your first deal under contract. If you're a girl, you get an iPhone from us. Cause like, that's just, sure, we want to protect our guys, but we definitely want to make sure the women are protected from us, by us. And so we got the ladies' iPhones, the guys. When you got a house under contract, then you got an iPhone.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we did it. So they used their own until then.
Gotcha.
And so, then we started scaling up and then we were doing about 6 contracts a month at that point, which is fantastic for us because our average deal was at 60K. So like we were just crushing it. And then we figured out a way to not pitch people. So when we pitched people, we didn't give them an offer on their house. We stopped giving them a number on the house. So at all, there was no number. It was like, it turned into like what the service was for them. And then they gave us the number. And when you do that, 2 things happen. They feel valued, they feel served. Our profits went significantly higher.
Yeah.
Like our profits went way higher. And so by doing that.
What was, you said you're in 4 states.
Yep. North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. But then we took out Florida because Florida freaking sucks for foreclosures because they'll let somebody be in foreclosure for like 3 years.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Georgia didn't do as well as we wanted it to do. and then we crushed it in South Carolina. We crushed it in South Carolina because wholesaling is essentially, if you try to wholesale in South Carolina, they'll send you a cease and desist letter. And so that actually eliminated a ton of the competition for us in South Carolina because we weren't wholesaling in South Carolina. We're doing the installment method.
Gotcha.
And so that actually gave us a huge advantage on foreclosures in South Carolina.
Gotcha. So before we get into that, so you joined Collective Genius. Why did you join Collective Genius?
So I am a huge fan of education. So I was an educator in other industries, and I equate education like this. I think that education is like, when you travel a lot. So, and this is in the Phoenix airport. They've got those movable walkways, right? I will 100% of the time take those because I'll jump on those and then I'll look at the person next to me and look at how fast he's running. And I try to walk as slow as I can. I take really slow steps and still see he's walking super fast and I'm like this. So I know if I move my feet faster, I'm going to fly by him. Education is a lot like that. Education is like the conveyor belt at the airport where I have the experience, I have the skills, I have the information from somebody else guiding me and propelling me forward where I can work really, really hard by myself to try to figure that out. But if I'm on the back of somebody else's experience and information and knowledge, the faster I walk, the further I go, far faster than if I were able to do it by myself. And so I knew that for me to do really well in this new industry, I was going to need help. And so I dove right into, it's funny because I met with Leon and I probably hadn't been wholesaling for longer than like 2 months. And so I met with Leon and he was like, this is weird. I've never seen anything like this. And so because of our business acumen, because of me and Carl, he had us go into Premier. Super thankful for that. And then what I had noticed was Premier's amazing, but I'm sitting in rooms where they're like, here's how you shelter $5 million in taxes. And here's how you do this. And I'm like, bro, we are not the same. And so I had before, and I guess before.
Different challenges.
Before I was a wedding photographer, I was a college pastor at a church in Charlotte. And then I ended up being a high school baseball and football coach there. And I coached with a guy named Grady Little, who took the Red Sox and the Dodgers almost to the World Series. But then he retired and decided to serve in the church. And when he did, Sports Illustrated, so he decided, he was like, okay, I'm going to be the high school baseball coach here, just serve my time and my experience. Sports Illustrated comes and they're like, the most overqualified high school baseball coach in America. And so I was his assistant coach there, which is kind of wild. But the one thing about Grady is Grady signed David Ortiz, Clayton Kershaw, the best people like in baseball history. He signed and managed them. But he had no idea how to train a rising ninth grader on how to field a ground ball. And so that's how I felt in Premier. You've got a bunch of people like Grady Little who are kind of a little bit removed from the fundamentals of wholesaling and had no idea how to help me. And so I was like, Leon, I think I want to go down to Select because like I need to learn how to field a ground ball before I can be signed to the majors. And so take me back down. And so I ended up going back down because of that, which was super helpful. But but CG, without CG and without mentorship in general, this business would not exist right now. The impact that I'm going to have in the world would not be possible. And so I think without mentorship or education in general, I wouldn't be where I am. And so I knew that early on. And so that's why I went into CG.
And you won some belts along the way.
Oh, I did. It's funny. I got third place in Premier, second place in Select, and then first place Select. And then if we had, I strongly believe, if we had belts at the time like we do now for the tracks, I would have won a belt for my AI presentation. So I think I would have 3 belts.
I saw that AI presentation.
Oh.
It was pretty good.
You liked it?
I liked it, right?
Saying.
So that's actually the reason why. So we have 3 cameras in here. For those of you guys, you can't see it, right? We have 3 different angles. We use Autopod.
Hey, Autopod
right?
is...
Because I'm staring, I was like, okay, this guy's really into AI. And these are some great recommendations. Like, all right, let's go back and use Autopod. So now we don't have a switcher.
Let's go.
Right? And the command center anymore.
Taking away a job.
Yeah.
I'm just joking.
Well, we could reallocate those resources and efforts
right,
elsewhere.
Because that's also, I think that it's not AI that's going to take away jobs. It's the people not using AI that's going to take away
Right. And that's how you open that presentation. It's like AI is not here to take your job.
Yeah.
It has to help you be more effective at your job.
That's exactly right.
If you choose to opt out of it, that's fine. You're choosing to opt out of having a job.
That's exactly right. So I'm glad that you are reallocating those efforts.
Absolutely.
elsewhere.
We're always reallocating. So let's talk about AI real quick then.
Let's go.
All right. So talk to me. Like, what is this passion about artificial intelligence?
Oh, all my life, this could get like psychologically something different. But I think like for me, I'm always in the camp of progress, like innovation. It's one of our core values is innovation, is moving and progressing. It's disrupting wherever we go into, which is why I love the name of this podcast, Disruptors. It's disrupting whatever industry. You were going to say something?
No.
Okay. Disrupting the industry, disrupting wherever I can by utilizing the best technology that's available for us. I just think if somebody's created it, I think that God has given somebody the ability to create something that has not been done before or is going to revolutionize the world. And I think there's no reason not to be an early adapter to it. I'm just an early adopter onto things. And so I just dove in and was like, yo, this is so fascinating because you can scale. So for me, I also own a virtual assistant staffing company. And for me to be able to optimize the efforts of my virtual assistants with AI allows you literally to scale what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, why make it harder on myself when I can make it significantly more efficient because of AI, to not have to switch cameras or to not have to create content and chop it up and put the words in there, or to not have to create. So I use AI for my SOPs. I use AI for a ton of things. And so it's like, why would I do that myself when literally I could pay $20 a month for something else to do it, and that scales my time significantly. So I just don't see any reason not to do it. And people are going to be, Steve, the thing that gets me is when people are like, don't let your kids use AI because it's going to make them dumb. Like, because then they're going to have a crutch and they're going to do all this. And I'm going to go, and I'm thinking, well, what happens when everybody in the world is using AI and they have no idea how to use it? Like, how do we use AI to help their educational advancement? Because I think there's so many things. Instead of having to hire a tutor, they've created tutors for kids that are artificial intelligence, that are actually way better at seeing tendencies, that are way better at teaching to the style that these kids learn at. And so I'm just like, why not introduce your kid to the future of what they're going to be in? Because in the next 10 years, their life will be AI. In some way, shape, or form. They're going to wake up in the morning and it's AI that monitors the sleep that they got, that tells them what they should eat for breakfast or tells them whatever to be able to bring them back up to the energy level they need. Like, that's going to be what the future is.
Gary Vee kind of talks about this. Like, we're all trying to take away the devices from our kids, which I am still in that camp. But we're taking devices away from our kids because like we want them to interact, go outside, this and that. It's like, and there's nothing wrong with that belief, right? But he's like,
what are they going to be interacting with?
This is the way it is right now. And guess what? Like, yeah, you're fighting the good fight today. No one else is. And so when your kid gets to graduate college, whatever, when they go to college, like,
huge disadvantage. This
is the way the society is. So you are stopping them from being a part of that society. So it's interesting.
It is really interesting.
I don't think he's wrong. I don't think he's necessarily right, but I don't think he's necessarily wrong either.
Yeah. And I do think there's a ton of value in like our kids. We try to monitor tablet time and do all those things. But there's also times where we have set aside time where I'm like, guys, let's use Midjourney and use our imagination on what we can create. Like, let's create a children's book together. Like my kids, we use AI as our like creative, how can we utilize this to improve our life? Like it's really cool because I'm like, hey guys, name 3 things you want tonight's story to be about. So Ashton and Amaya are my kids. I'm like, where do you want to be? Like, what land do you want to live in? And like, what Pokemon do you want to be? And then like AI creates the bedtime story for us based off of what they want. We do it like every night and they love it. And so like, there's just so many unique things that you could do.
That's pretty cool.
To like use your kids' imaginations to be able to help them to like start to integrate into the world that they're going to live in for the rest of their life. So it's really interesting.
Yeah. So we're going to get to installment method. Before we do that,
maybe
we're going to get to that. But before we do that, you're talking about raising capital and you have this BHAG.
Yep. That's right.
What's the BHAG?
So our BHAG, and it's rooted on, I grew up in the hood. I grew up in LA. My mom worked so hard because I didn't just grow up in the hood. I grew up in nice parts of California because my mom worked her butt off to make sure that I was raised in a nice area. So it was just me and her all my life. She worked 2 jobs and she worked really hard to put us in good areas. And so for me, I think we are positioned and postured in a way to be able to make a huge impact in the lives of this growing middle class that is going to turn quickly into a lower class because of the gap that's growing between the upper and the middle and the lower class. And so because of that, our BHAG is to transform the lives of 10,000 families in America by building or owning 1,000 units of affordable housing in 10 different cities around the United States. And so for us, that means we can be able to provide single mothers with 3 kids. I say, 2 jobs, 3 kids. It's a triple double. Like these triple double mothers, like these mothers that work so hard to put their kids in safe places to be able to have a good area for them to do that in. But then it also does another thing where like my wife and I foster children, and we see the direct impact of poverty, of drugs, of honestly a completely broken and messed up system. And how can we directly impact the world and these mothers and these families and these kids that did nothing to deserve the life that they have, as far as the kids are concerned, nothing to deserve that. How can we impact that? And for us, we feel like that's the foster care system, and that's going to be the affordable housing world. And I think you have to have enough of it or be big enough in it to actually affect it. Because like, I can mail my senator and call him all I want. Mm-hmm. That's not going to make change, right? Like no. I've got to have enough. I've got to have enough pull or enough something to be able to actually make an impact. And for us, that goal is 10,000 by 2049, and I'll be 50 something by that time. That still leaves me a ton of time to continue to make a large impact in this world. And so, what's cool about that BHAG is when I got into CG, it was like, I'd meet somebody and they're like, oh, I own 20 units. And I'm like, dang, 20 units? That's crazy. Mm-hmm. And then like I get around another person and they're like, I own 150. And I'm like, 150? When like I came in and I'm like, I'd like to own 2 houses in my life, right? And then you get around people that are like, I own 2,000. And you're like, what? And then I got into like this mastermind called Raise Masters. The lowest people have is like 6,500 in there. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting next to somebody and he's like, I own 10,000 units. So then what happens in that moment is like, I say this, the dreams to what I believe is possible, like the ceiling to what I dream to be possible is raised, but also the floor of my limiting beliefs are raised. Mm-hmm. And so like when I went in and I thought I can have 2 houses in my life, then I was like, that 2 houses is good. But now that I'm like 10,000 is the number, I'm upset if I have 5,000. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So because I know it's possible. I've seen plenty of people do it. And so the floor of my limiting beliefs continue to be raised. And so that happens because I'm surrounded by people in CG and in Raise Masters and things like that. And that affects my BHAG and then the impact that I believe is possible in this world. And so that's where that comes from.
So you were saying a lot of this is driven by your upbringing.
Yeah.
So you said single mother.
Mm-hmm.
You have 3 kids or 2 siblings?
I have one sister. I have one sister, but she actually lived in Florida. But what happens, especially in LA and these inner cities, is when there's not a father figure, then that's where like gangs come in. So my cousin was a blood. He was a gang member. So I spent a lot of time around gangs when I lived in LA. I actually, man, we're getting deep into my life here. So 2 of my best friends at the time when I lived in LA, one is life in prison for murder. The other one's in and out of jail and out of rehab. And that was my reality. And so in order to avoid child support, I would spend the summers with my dad, and he lived kind of all over the country because his job took him to different places. And so there was one summer where I was with him and we were living in Raleigh for that summer. And they were just like, hey, Devin, you're not going back home. And I was like, well, what do you mean I'm not going back home? And they were like, you're not coming back home. And so like I literally, still to this day, have not seen the stuff that was in my room when I left. I left with a suitcase and that's all I had. Mm-hmm. And so I never went back home. My mom moved out to North Carolina. I moved out with her. And then I moved in with her. And then 4 years later, found out that guy's not actually my dad. But anyways, I digress. But yeah, man, my mom worked really hard to raise me in good areas. But nevertheless, like if you're in certain areas, you're still going to run in around the wrong crowds. Mm-hmm. And so I think because of that upbringing, how hard my mom worked, the life that I lived, and like if I did not leave that summer, my life would be changed forever. I wouldn't be who I am today. And so,
How old were you?
15.
15.
So I want to be able to have that impact for other kids.
How does your BHAG help you accomplish that?
Great. So good question. So if we are able, because with affordable housing, you have the ability to be able to vet a lot of the tenants that go into it. So if you're able to vet those tenants, then we're able to go, okay, these are people that actually need this good housing. And one of my big goals is to be able to have these these houses in good areas, which is tough because these good areas don't always want affordable housing. So we actually are partnering with the town of Davidson near Charlotte, North Carolina. And if you know anything about the town of Davidson, the average house is like $600,000. Like it is, Davidson is where Steph Curry went, one of the the nicest private schools you could go to in the South. And so they call Davidson the Harvard of the South or something like that. And so that's that in that area. So we're actually working with the town of Davidson to build affordable housing there. And so I want to be able to bring affordable housing to areas that wouldn't normally have affordable housing. And so for these parents to raise their kids, go to a good school district. Cause Steve, I've been shot at. I've almost been kidnapped twice. I've been in really bad areas in LA, but my mom worked really hard for me to not have to be. And so for us to be able to help those mothers that want to build and put their kids in great areas, that directly our BHAG directly impacts that.
Gotcha. So that's powerful.
Thanks, Ian. I'm thankful.
So we're talking about 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Things are going to be different.
Yeah.
So how are things going to be?
So, man, what we're seeing in the South, what we're seeing in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, what we're seeing in that area is, and granted, I've been in this for 3 years, so I haven't seen the talk of all this stuff that's going on. But what I'm seeing now, visibly with my own eyes, and as I'm trying to move around the regulations that I hear and see, is wholesaling is becoming one of those things where they don't the realtors, the board is talking about not recognizing it as equitable interest. And so then you hear people that are like, oh, it's illegal, it's this or that. And so for me as an early adopter, I'm like, how do I get around this so that my business doesn't crash and burn? Because all of a sudden some regulation comes up. Here it is, boom. Now I have to on the fly adopt a whole new method or a whole new process to try to make money in real estate. Mm-hmm. And so, and what was really helpful was in South Carolina, we were trying to do some deals in South Carolina, and I came across these guys who are NCG. We're sitting together at a dinner, and they were like, yeah, they're sending cease and desist letters to wholesalers that are trying to, anybody that puts essentially anything on the market or not on the market, but puts anything on investor lift or anything, all of the trying to wholesale a property, they'll send them a cease and desist at $20,000 an assignment. And I was like, sheesh, that's crazy for them to do that. And so I saw two things. I saw opportunity, but I saw writing on the wall, right? If they're doing this so strongly in South Carolina, then it's only a matter of time before other states start to adopt it at a higher level or other states start to get stricter on their policies. Because I knew in Oklahoma, you can't you can't put a house on the market with equitable interest or wholesale there. You have to go through a realtor. And so I knew in these states this was happening, but not as strong as South Carolina. South Carolina was bam, it's done. Mm-hmm. And so I connected with these guys at CG, and they were working with this guy named Gary Pickren, who is a South Carolina real estate commissioner and a broker and owns one of the largest title companies in South Carolina. They got 50 attorneys doing closings. And so we closed with them, and they were telling me about this installment method and what it was and how it can alleviate the issue of wholesaling in South Carolina. And then I saw the opportunity. So I saw the writing on the wall, but then I saw the opportunity because I was like, if other people can't wholesale in South Carolina, but this allows you to, then I need to be doing this thing.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple of different things, right? If you look at when I started, because I started wholesaling I got familiar with wholesaling in 07, right?
Ooh, 07.
And I was like, this is a fad. This is a fad. Forget this thing. Once the market turns around, this thing's gonna be over, right? Completely wrong. Could not be more wrong. But when we started Real Estate Disruptors, this was 2018, and wholesaling was known, but it wasn't well known, right? And so I became this person who was a successful realtor in the Phoenix market to a person that kind of became went to the dark side, right? Because I wholesale, right?
Yeah.
Like this realtor thinks for the birds, I'm going to wholesale, right? And as I was doing this and I was showing more and more people like by wholesaling, realtors like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
What's this wholesaling thing, right? Now, today, I don't know a lot of realtors that don't know what wholesaling is,
Yeah.
right? And the ones that do know wholesaling don't have a positive
not like it.
perspective on wholesaling.
No.
But here's what's crazy. We have homeowners we talk to now. It's like, are you going to wholesale my house?
Dang, here. Dang.
I mean, Phoenix, like this is a guru capital.
Never had that. That's
Right?
crazy.
We have homeowners like, are you going to wholesale my house? So look, the reality is we're at a time now, and I've made this joke many times before. Brent's heard me say this. I believe there are more homeowners out there that know the TTP script than there are wholesalers that know the TTP script, right?
That sounds right.
Right? Because if you talk to them, it's like,
That's right.
hey, I know this call's out of blue, or you're looking for a cash. Like, they know this script.
They do.
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
So if this is the reality,
Mm-hmm.
and realtors don't care for wholesalers, and realtors are pretty pissed off right now because there was a whole deal a month or two back about the whole commission thing.
They met, I guess all of them met in Canada or something and talked about I'm not talking
about the whole deal with the lawsuit.
Oh, in Tennessee.
No, I'm saying the lawsuit as far as you're not paying buyer brokers anymore,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. The North.
So realtors are pretty pissed right now.
Yep.
I think there's going to be even more focus now,
Mm.
more light on the wholesaling side. So to me, it doesn't really matter what I believe is right?
Mm.
Right? Because I strongly believe
Yeah.
you should be able to wholesale. I should be able to wholesale you this Monster, used Monster
Mhm.
drink. I should be able to
Yeah,
wholesale
I
this
heard
to you,
Manny wants it. I'll give it to him for $20.
right? I should
Yeah.
be able to wholesale this,
Yeah.
right? Like, so how can they regulate this? But regardless of what I believe, if the departments of real estate come together and say,
Yeah.
we don't like this, it doesn't matter what we believe
Yeah.
if this is the direction.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. And that's the writing on the wall that we see.
Mhm.
So like Gary being who he is, a real estate commissioner, he talks a lot about that side of it. He talks a lot about the regulation that's coming because like it's very ironic. He literally is the one regulating these wholesalers in South Carolina.
Mhm.
And so for him to do that, to see that writing on the wall makes me go, oh, dang, this is legit. Like this is not just like a thing. This is pretty legit. And so for us, I was like, okay, how do we alleviate or get around that or continue to be honest? Because I think wholesaling is also a service to sellers. How do we continue to be a service for these sellers that have motivation, that need help, don't have time to put it on the market with a realtor or do whatever, doesn't have access to the cash buyers? How do we still be a service to them? And so that's when, and that kind of led me to look at 2024. How are things going to change? And then what the solution for that is. And that brought about the installment method. So I hope that answered your question on like, how is wholesaling changing in 2024? In a couple of ways, I think it's just regulatory. It's going to change. But then also like, as you're saying, sellers they know the TTP script better than we do.
Right.
And so then like, if everybody's offering the same solution, then what's actually going to help them? And like, what's going to differentiate me or you from every other person that's using the TTP script or any of that stuff? And so for us, it was, I saw the installment method and was like, this is it. And so it's funny because I got together with those guys and then quickly started doing a lot of them. So I've done a ton of installment methods and it's provided us the ability to, like I said, give a solution to a seller by being able to, and I don't know how much you want to dive into the structure of it, give the seller money now to be able to help them. And then even like along the way, if they need cash to pay for their car or whatever, then like we can give them that. And that comes out of the proceeds that they were going to give. But because we're protected, because that's what it does. It gives solutions, but it also protects us as the investor in not having to worry about a wholesaler coming and snake our deal, not having to worry about a seller backing out because I've literally had sellers back out. I wired money into the title company to close and the seller signed with another wholesaler. And it was just like what? And so like it protects us from that, but then it also gives us a ton of exit strategies, whether I want to build my portfolio or I want to maximize our profits while still helping them. It does all of that. So now I kind of assume we're going to talk about the structure of it.
Yes. I mean, what is exactly the installment method?
Okay, so the installment method, one, I think it's another tool in your tool belt. So you've got like wholesaling, you got novations, you got wholetailing, you got BRRRR, you got all these things. And so this is another tool in the tool belt that I actually think is a good combination of those, but also gives us a ton of opportunity to do other things with it. So what I do is essentially is Steve, and I love this. I'm talking to the sales trainer about some sales stuff. So I'd go to you, Steve, and we do this with foreclosures. I was talking to my person about this today with a foreclosure. I can go to you and go, hey, Steve, I know you want $250 for your house. Your house is worth $350. Or let's say you want $200 for your house. Your house is worth $300. You didn't like my offer of $160,000. I understand. You want $200. I think now, I don't know if I can for sure, but let me go back, talk to my underwriters in the back and our team, and see if I can help give you that $200,000. And you may qualify for this program. It's our installment program, and I think I may be able to give you $500 now. Would that be helpful for you? And so for us, that's kind of how we pitch it. We talk to them about that. We're like, hey, we can give you money now. And if they push back and they want more than $500, we literally get to put the terms however we want. I've given somebody $10,000 now because we knew that house was going to be like a banger. Or we've structured it to where you can go, we haven't had to structure it this way, but you can structure it where I go, how about I give you $500 now and $500 a month until we close? Would that be helpful for you as well, to pay some of the bills, to get you started on the move, get you this on whatever we talked about in the past was their pain point? We get to directly address their pain point in the way that we structure the deal, whereas a wholesaler wouldn't be able to do that.
Right.
They would just say, here's my cash offer. I'll pay you in 30 days, maybe. And so hopefully. And so I'm saying I will come now with cash. You can have it non-refundable. And so what we do then is when we have that closing, so we have two closings. There's an initial closing with the title company, and then we pay what's called an equitable deposit. So the biggest issue with wholesaling that I believe is that in a wholesale contract is not actual equitable interest on a property. It's not seen as equitable interest. States like Georgia, states like Tennessee, South Carolina for sure, are not acknowledging and recognizing a wholesale contract as actual equitable interest. And so what we're doing is we're actually putting down an equitable deposit, a non-refundable equitable deposit to that seller. And then the title company is actually going to record that equitable deposit with the county, and that puts us on the title with the seller. And then people come in and they're like, why would the seller do that? Why would the seller want you to go on title with them? That doesn't make any sense. That seller, why would they do that? And so for us, we go, Steve, you're wanting $200,000 for that house, and I think I can get you that. I'm going to talk to them, see if you apply for this program, and if you do, or qualify for this program, and if you do, I think I can get you that. What I then can do is I'm going to go ahead and give you that $500 now, and we'll do that at the closing. We'll have a closing in the next, depending on how fast our title company can clear title, we'll have and then for us to do our due diligence, we'll have our closing in the next 3 to 5 days. I'll be able to pay that $500 then, and then I'll go on the title with you. What that's going to do is that's going to allow me to be able to go and get the financing that I need, either from our lender or to be able to go and put that on the market to get you access to millions of buyers, to be able to get you that number without having to worry about the hassle of filling out all that paperwork and dealing with a realtor. We take care of that for you. The great thing, Steve, you remain on the title, so you're fully protected in this as well. So you don't have to worry about being at any risk for this. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and make payments to you for the next 2 months at $500, or heck, you can pay for their mortgage if you want. Like, we'll pay your mortgage for you for the next, until we close on the property, and when we get you that final $200,000. Does that sound like something you'd be interested in? And so then that's how we pitch that to them. And so then it's like, well, of course they want to be like, they have no problem with that because they stay on it with us. They're fully protected. And we are fully protected because like, it's better than a memorandum. We don't have to file a memorandum. We don't have to file a notice of interest. It's better than that because we've seen people try to still sell it over a memorandum and been successful. So like, we've seen that happen. So it's better than that because they can't take out debt. They can't sell. They can't do anything without us signing off on it. And so it's really helpful.
Yeah, we had a deal right now close. I think it was the 18th, so the Monday of Thanksgiving. Yeah. Right. We had someone that they recorded over our memorandum.
Dang.
Right. So, which doesn't happen in Arizona, right? Like that's cloud of title in Arizona at least. And so we're suing them for title insurance claim here. So
but that's a pain.
It is, but I mean at this point, like there's no risk. Like, we're gonna get the revenue.
That's true.
And we don't have any risk in it. But that happens, right? Like we don't control the transactions. Like for me, you know, you guys that are watching, we talk about uncertainty talks. We talk about the whale club. We talk about having certainty. For me, the biggest win here is that once we agree on terms with the homeowner, we control the transaction because we are the owner.
That's right.
Of the property, right? So I can sign the listing agreement, right? Which in most states you still can't today with equitable interest, right? Like that, that appears to be an unresolved legal discussion, right? Some states say you can, some states say you can't.
That's not, it's state by state.
State by state, right? So like whatever, right? But if I own the property, that issue is resolved. So now I can sign the listing agreement. I can sign any purchase contracts that come through. And the biggest thing for me is that when the buyer comes through on the second leg, I don't have to worry about the seller getting involved, right?
Nope.
I don't have to worry about the seller saying, hey, how come, what's this $40,000 charge?
Yeah.
Or what is this $115,000 difference?
That's exactly right.
I don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
Nope. You don't even have to worry about the buyer being like, I don't like that you're making this wholesale fee.
Yeah.
Because we're selling it to them as an owner of the property. It's not
we are the owner. We're not a middleman. We are the actual owner. So in many ways, we're operating like a flipper with short-term financing from the seller. So in Arizona, we can close as fast as 3 days here, right? Like I've actually had title clear in less than 24 hours here.
Nice.
Right? Like we had a situation with an HOA foreclosure, like, hey, our foreclosure is tomorrow. Can you close on it? I was like, let me make a call.
Yeah.
And we got it cleared.
Nice.
That day, right? So in Arizona, I could take title, let's just say 3 days, 3 to 7 days. Once I take title, I can mark it on MLS. I don't have to worry about any issues with, again, other people poaching our deal, sellers backing out, sellers disappearing, right? We had a seller go to prison, right? That was made it really difficult.
We did an installment on somebody in prison too.
Yeah.
And the thing is like, then we never had to worry about after that initial one, them having to come back ever again. It didn't matter.
We've done novations with power of attorneys where the power of attorney in this instance was out of state. And so like every time we did it, every time we had a conversation, we had to talk to the seller and then his daughter. Like it was always this double conversation. Like
that's a pain.
We're getting past all of that.
Yeah.
Right. So, like I said, I think this is going to resolve a lot of issues, but not all the issues, but a lot of the issues, right? So the regulatory component, the control situation. So why should someone not then do installment method?
Okay. So it depends, right? So it does require the capital to be able to give that initial installment, and you have an initial and closing. So I would say the biggest difference is on why you shouldn't do an installment, because there's still some that we're like, nope, this probably isn't an installment for, is because like, if I'm going to put myself on that title, there's risk, right? There's risk on being like, this has to sell. So for us, we know that unless it's going to make us $30,000 on this deal, we're not going to do an installment on it because we have to come out of pocket for the initial closing. We're paying them monthly. Out of pocket now, but then it's credited back to us at the closing. So not out of pocket ultimately, but there's still capital that has to take place there. And so we know that it has to be a minimum 30,000 for us. So that's one of them. But also too, it depends on what the purpose of this is. We deal with foreclosures, and we are doing in foreclosures, we have 30 days less. Sometimes it just fluctuates. And we know that if that's our time frame and we want to put it on the MLS, we know that an FHA buyer is going to need a 90-day seasoning period. So then I'm like, okay, well then maybe it would be better to do a novation in this situation. But still, again, like power of attorney gets, you don't really have, you're not protected on the title. So then you either just have to say, I don't really want to do it with an FHA buyer, or you kind of switch the way that you do it. So that's probably the only reason I would see not to do it, unless you see something different, because like we've transitioned to doing it for like all of our deals. Yeah. Because it just makes sense.
Well, I mean, I foresee us using it for a majority of our deals. And I think the biggest reason why, again, is we talk about certainty, right? With the Whale Club. It's that it's crazy to me. I would sit down with my accountant. We do 30-day projections, right? So we've done the P&L, right? P&L is a 30-day look back.
Yep.
We're doing 30-day projections, right? So we want to know, based off our history and based off what we have on the board, what's our cash position going to be in 30 days?
Smart.
In doing a cash projection in 30 days, we always knock off 20%.
Yep. Because deals fall through.
Deals fall through. Either the buyer doesn't perform, right? The hard money doesn't happen, or they try to wholesale to someone else without telling you, even though it's in a contract that they can't. They try to wholesale to somebody else, and now that they've done it, The 14 days to declare solar has to get reset.
That's right.
So like there's all these things that happen, right? So we cannot rely on 100% of the revenue that's on the board.
That's right.
On closing. Having this process in place, we can say with a lot greater certainty,
there's no doubt,
we own the property now. These are all going to close. We don't have to worry about, the other thing I didn't say, like sellers backing out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like we don't have to worry about their daughter coming in. We have more than once adult protective services called on us.
Dang.
Right? And having adult protective services called on us, now we got to deal with this. Like, okay, do we want to fight this or not? Right? Like, hey, and the first thing, did we record this call? Right? I was like, why the hell did you not record this call? Because that's the first question I had when we have adult protective services called in. So, do we want to fight this? Right? With all this goes away, we're the owner. If it's not 100%, the only instances where it wouldn't close is if the buyer can't get their loan done in time, or the buyer gets their loan done. That's it, right? Because we're talking about marketing on MLS.
Yep.
One of the things we see a lot in collective genius.
But really quickly too, though, if that happens, then like with this installment method, I can then go to the seller and go, hey, look, listen, this was the situation. We'd love to extend it another 30 days. I'll pay you $2,000 if you're willing to extend it another 30 days. There you go. Like they're like, fantastic, awesome. But if you're wholesaling, you're just like, hey, it didn't close in 30 days. I'm sorry, I got to terminate. But now we have that opportunity to pay them more money, but then it's credited back to us at closing. So it's like, we're not even paying them. Like, we're just coming out of the profits that they're going to make. They're just essentially getting like an advance on it. But like we are able to pay them that money now to compensate for like our buyer falling through and us needing to extend it longer. You have that option.
Right. And again, like we can pay more. So I look at this, a lot of the ways that we were doing innovations.
Yep.
We can put this in the same place where we can pay more.
That's exactly right.
Right. And so if you're wholesaling, this could be a challenge if you're going against us because we can actually pay more.
We could pay more 100% of the time.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. I literally was talking to our acquisition person this morning, and she's like, yo, I got this banger in Raleigh. It's worth $650. The lady owes $350 on it. And I was like, let's lock it in on an installment because like, she wants to stay in the house for a little bit longer. She's in a foreclosure situation. And we're like, okay, let's get it under contract. So then once we're in an installment and we're on the deed with her, then like I can go to the foreclosure attorney and show them I can go to the lender and show them, hey, we have a purchase contract with them. We want to try to extend this, auction another 3 months, which gives us plenty of time to do whatever we need for it. But then if they say no, I also can pay off those arrears and not have to worry about paying off the arrears and then they leave us and never talk to us again because I'm on the deed. And so this just opens up so much opportunity for those big deals so that if we want to, because this is a huge house worth $650, we're getting it pretty dang low. We have another one in Charlotte. It's worth like $950 and we're getting it at like $416 and they're making a couple $100K off of it still, but we're locking it in because like, I don't want them to go and sell that to somebody else.
Yeah.
We still want to be like...
We're lock in the gains.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's huge for that.
There's, I'm trying to think of some other instances. Like we used to do partnerships. Or not used to. We've considered doing partnerships. We've done one ever. And the biggest reason why I didn't want to do it is because, all right, Devin, I'm going to come in. I'm going to fix your house. I'm going to split the profits.
I'm doing that currently.
Right.
Got one.
But there's always the risk of Devin's like, hey, I really like this house now that we've remodeled it.
Appreciate
thank you. Right? I don't want to sell it anymore. And you're like, I just spent
that's right.
$45,000, $50,000 in your house. And the only way I could protect myself in that instance prior was a lien. Like, hey, I need you to agree to this lien before I put money into it, which protects me, but I'm still out that money.
Yeah, and it protects you the amount of the lien, like the amount that you put into the house.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the amount of protection.
Yeah.
But here and now, it's like, no, I'm the owner. I can put money into this.
Yep.
And you can live in the house, right? I wouldn't generally do this, but I know you've done it.
I have.
Right? Where you remodel the house while they live in it.
And then we sold it, and then like we split profits 70-30. $700,000 house. Their mortgage was $200,000. They owed $100,000 in judgments, like $140,000 in judgments. And so we agreed on a price of, I think it was $490. So they're going to come up, they're going to get a lot of money on that. And then I was like, the way that we can get you the most, and I said this, the way that we can get you the most amount for your property is if we sell it on the MLS, but your house is in fantastic condition, but it's a little bit dated. so what if we were to, over the next couple of months, they want to stay in, spend time with their family. What if we were to go ahead and renovate the kitchen for you and then renovate the bathrooms? You be okay with that? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, fantastic. And so we split the profits 70-30. We made 200. They made like 180 or something. Like, that's awesome.
Right.
And so, and they made 180 because of their difference. So we were at like 500 was the amount that they wanted. And then we split we didn't even split the 250. Anyways, so we agreed on the 70-30. And then we got, because we said 70 because we were helping them to take care of the foreclosure, taking care of the not having to worry about all of that stuff while we renovated it. We renovated it, and then we took care of the realtor and all that. So kind of wild.
Yeah. So one of the questions that we've heard in the recent past is like, why would a seller agree to this?
Yeah. Well, really, when it comes to this, we're offering them the service of, so I deal with foreclosures. And a lot of people in foreclosure, they have very pressing money issues. And so for me to be able to come in and give them money now is a huge plus to them. And for me to go, I could offer you cash 160, but you wanted 200. For me to give you that is a huge service. We had a house in South Carolina, and the lady's like, hey, we're really struggling right now. Can you help us? So I Venmo'd her like $1,500, because I knew that was gonna, I could do that. I own the house. She's not gonna run with that. And then I just sent a copy of the receipt to my title company, and then they took that out at closing. So for us, it's the ability to be able to help people. Cause what if their car breaks down and they need money for their car? We're in a position to be able to help them for that. Can you imagine the review you would get if it wasn't just us taking care of the situation with their house, getting them more than anybody else offered them, but also taking care of their car on the way, along the way? And so for us to be able to serve them in the time of need that they're at, because let's face it, people aren't really coming to us unless they have motivation. And for us to meet them where they are in their pain points, in their motivation, typically it's financially, but it also is through services that you can offer them because you're on the title or you're on the deed with them, and because ultimately you'll be credited back that money at closing.
Right.
It allows you to do a lot more for them.
You can release a lot more funds to them. You can advance the funds and still be fully protected.
Which no wholesaler can do.
Yeah.
A wholesaler would be kind of dumb to be like, here's $5,000, here's a couple $1,000 non-refundable. Yeah. Have a great day.
Can't say that we haven't done it. I don't think we have done it, but I can't say we haven't done it either. Right?
But I'm sure you did because you wanted to help.
Actually, I take that back. So we had a situation where, unfortunately we had to sue this guy for a specific performance.
Dang.
Right? I didn't want to, but we literally bought him a mobile home.
Shoot.
Right? He's like, hey, I need this. Okay, we bought the mobile home for him. And dummies, right? This is a wholesale deal. So we completely shot ourselves in the foot here. But we own it. And then again, for everyone that's watching, that was stupid. That was just stupid.
Hey, right? Man, I'm really down on my luck. The car broke down on the way here, Steve. I really need some help.
Yeah. But now, right, if I'm the owner, I'm protected. I don't have to worry about this, right? So I can help them find their other property, their next property.
You can help them. So we've done that. We pay security deposits because they need the money now to do the security deposit. But typically, they're not going to get that money until it closes. And so I can pay their security deposit and their first month of rent for them. And it's essentially just an advance on that for them. Right. And so we have so much opportunity. Because if we want to get them out the house, then you're like, get out the house. Go figure it out. Go out there and be somebody, And so now we're in a position where hey, get out the house, but let's help. We will pay for the security deposit and the first month of rent in your new apartment that you're leaving to. You can do that. That's specifically catered to the seller. That is directly helping them. So it's really cool.
Yeah. So looking at your business today, right?
Mm-hmm.
You went through this skyrocket launch into real estate.
Phew.
And because it was a really big rise, the crash was a little bit more spectacular.
I mean, crashed and burned, bro. I remember sitting in my office by myself, nobody in there, and just being like, oh my gosh. So yes, very spectacular.
All right. So a spectacular crash. And now you've turned it back around. So what does your business look like now versus when you started?
Fantastic. So we use the installment method a ton. Now I own a real estate fund now. So one of the things with foreclosures is they require capital. And so I got to the point where I was working with a lot of private lenders, but golly, private lenders, it's just ugh, it's so inconvenient. And then you got to deal with them and you're like, hey, wire it in. I need you to wire it in today. It's got to wire in today. And they're like, oh, it hasn't hit my account yet. And I'm like, well, come on. And then you got to send them promissory notes and then they send payoffs. Like they have to put together a payoff and send a payoff in, then you got to wire it back. And then I'm telling them I'll give them 12% a year when really I'm only giving them not that much because it's like, hey, I got a deal for you once every 3 months, you know? And so for me, we started a fund. And so now it's really cool. My wholesaling company wholesales to my wholesales every deal to my fund. Mm-hmm. So now I make money on the wholesale for my company through the installment method. So I have a company called Pure Flare Homes. They do all of the Pure Flare Homes does all of the installment contracts, and they're on all the installment contracts, and they also will wholesale it to us. Actually, yes, they'll wholesale it to us, and then we do the closing. At that closing, we'll pay Pure Flare Homes the assignment fee at the initial closing. Mm-hmm. So my fund buys all the houses, and so we've transitioned because of the fund into flipping a lot. Mm-hmm. So we do flips with the installment method. That's pretty awesome because then we don't have to take out a huge loan to buy the house. We literally will flip it. So we'll do our closing, and then we'll just jump in and start flipping the house because it's vacant. And so we didn't actually even have to buy the house before we started flipping. Now, you have to have either a private lender to be able to help you get that money. We've got our fund, so we do that. We do that with that. So then we flip the house, and then we put it on the MLS. But then also, this is really cool because we haven't even talked about the exit strategies. We also refinance a lot out of this. Mm-hmm. So with the installment method, you can actually, and I'll do this, I will wholesale a house to my fund, and my fund will refinance it. So, or not my fund will refinance it. My fund will have a lender refinance it for us. So for instance, if you want to look it up, 4817 something, 4817 Woodstone Drive in Charlotte, North Carolina. The house appraised at $230,000. Pure Flare Homes got it under contract at $136,000. And then PF Capital started working on our rate and term refinance. So this is not a cash out. You typically have to wait like 90 days for a cash out refinance. This is a rate and term refinance off of the purchase price. The purchase price we have is $155,000. So Pure Flare Homes got it at $136,000. Assigned it to PF Capital at $155,000. PF Capital got a rate and term refinance based off of a $230,000 appraisal at $155,000. Mm-hmm. So without coming out of pocket to buy this house, all I did was pay for an assignment fee, but out of the rate and term refi. But I paid for a closing off of the initial closing because once you're on the title for 24 hours, you can rate and term refinance. Paid for initial closing, paid for the new loan, and now I own a house because I just refinanced it. Didn't have to buy it, didn't have to do the bridge loan, didn't have to do any of that stuff. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so you're not only not out of pocket, you're also paying yourself a fee.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a refinance. Right. Didn't have to come out of pocket at all.
Yeah.
Or the rate and term, you didn't have to put money down.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so you're getting paid to build a portfolio.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's wild.
That's pretty awesome.
It's cool. So we do that. We do at least one of those a month. And then we do a lot of the flips out of the installment, or we'll just purchase from ourselves. So we have about 20 projects right now, all within the last the last 3 months. So that's where we are.
Yeah, we haven't had a chance to talk about kind of like, so I did this, right? We bought a property this way. And it was a situation where I talked to the owner, figured out what they needed now and what they needed later. Right? Because like, hey, what do you need? Like, I'm not a cash buyer. Right?
Yeah.
Like, what do you need today? What do you need later? And we agreed, right? It was $10,000 right now, right? And then the rest in 6 months. Mm-hmm. And he carried the note and so on. And I did this. It's like, man, that's pretty cool. And that's stuff I learned from Eddie Speed, right? Like, the pitch, right? Ashley Furniture pitch. Mm-hmm. And then, what do you need now? Like, what are your immediate cash needs? And then everything else is like, okay, but I need to get paid later. I was like, okay, that's no problem, right? Mm-hmm. I want you to carry forever, but you don't want to carry forever. That's fine. Mm-hmm. We can have a balloon payment in 6 months. I was like, man, that's pretty cool that we were able to do this, right? Like, I gotta tell everybody, wait a minute. I saw, if I were to make this something, it'd be like an installment sale. Devin Robinson just posted something on Facebook about this.
I did. And then you called me and I was like, Steve Trang.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I was like, Devin, it's a long drive, right? Because this is out in Avondale. So it's a long drive back. So I was like, let me watch this Facebook Live that Devin recorded a couple weeks back. And I watched, it's like, okay, that's the same thing. Let me call Devin.
Nice.
I talked to you and you walked me through the whole thing. I was like, okay. I mean, that's what I just did.
Nice.
So this installment method thing, like, what's it about? Like, oh, I talked to Gary.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Gary. Like, yeah, Gary Pickering, he's a commissioner. I was like, oh. Like, why? Like, like, why are you saying, oh? It's like, well, he messaged me
Yeah, I remember.
on Instagram and I completely ignored him because he says that I am a commissioner in South Carolina, real estate commissioner in South Carolina, and I want to talk to you. I was like,
no, thanks.
No.
I'm not the one.
Out of self-preservation, if you're part of like the regulatory side, I want nothing to do with this, right? And but you said, yeah, Gary's the one that came with. I was like, oh, well, let me talk to Gary.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it just makes so much sense because we can help the homeowner,
mm-hmm.
and we can still do well as real estate investors. We're truly like everyone wins along the way.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest part, man. And so it was so cool, just to be able to see you do it, which was awesome. But then also now to be able to have like the backing and the help and the streamlined process to be able to do it at scale has just been really cool too.
Well, and was huge having Gary involved in this, not involved, leading this effort,
mm-hmm.
is that whatever happens in the next 24 months, right? This installment method will work because he is involved
He knows
in talking to all the other real estate commissioners.
He'll literally know before it happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So being part of this, you can kind of see this evolution in 2024, 2025, whichever direction this goes, we've got the inside track.
Well, and what's cool too is like we were talking. I mean, talking to him earlier today, and he literally was like, I was talking to a commissioner in some state, and they were talking about how they want to completely ban a popular version of real estate investing, and it was just like dang, like he knows that ahead of time. He's able to get in front of it, and he's also able to help us to understand like how do we get around that.
Well, he's helping us navigate it.
Yep.
Right. So absolutely. So I think that's awesome.
Cool.
If someone wanted to find out about installment method, like what is the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. So one, they could reach out. I am so happy to explain this to anybody and everybody. Mm-hmm. We also do like a lot of times we'll do trainings on these. So I think wholesale2024.com, you can register for those trainings, but then also installmentmethod.com, I believe is the website for us to be able to actually have like what it is and some more information on it there.
Yeah. So if you guys want to check out the next call, wholesale2024.com, or you can find out more at installmentmethod.com.
Mm-hmm.
So you had this epiphany with your wedding photography business. You realized this is not the life I had designed.
Mm-hmm.
What does your life look like now?
Great question, Ian. So I've got the non-negotiables, right? So the non-negotiables, time with my family. Very important for me. Spending time with my kids, picking them up every day, having the weekends off to enjoy my time with them. And they're 6, 5, and 2, and we spend a lot of time with their biological family, and so that's been great. So spend a lot of time with our family. My time actually most now is spent, because I spent, like I said, 6 months plus building out SOPs. So I'm thankful that it's been able to, that company is like, the wholesale side of our company is fairly self-sufficient, doesn't require a whole lot of me. I spend most of my time raising capital because it's freaking awesome. I really do enjoy doing that. So I raise a lot of capital for our fund and then plan and strategize towards impact and how we can kind of grow the company to create more and more impact. And so that's what I do a lot now. So that's how my life is structured. But then also, honestly, I think that this is such a problem-solving tool in the tool belt that I think like everybody needs to know about it. So I spend a lot of time talking about this either on the trainings or in our Facebook group or things like that.
Yeah, like I said, I found out about it on your Facebook Live.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. So what is your why?
And I think I've talked about that. My why is directly correlated with my BHAG, right? Is to make a huge impact in affordable housing and in foster care. Now, to dive a little bit deeper, that also goes down to the why is all started with how strong, my mom's my hero. Mom's my hero. Wouldn't be here without her. Gave up a ton of opportunity in her life for me to be able to succeed. My mom is my hero. And for a bunch of kids in general, especially inner city kids, their moms are their heroes. And you hear it all the time with these athletes. Their mom's their hero. They came out of the mud with her. Like, that's just kind of how it is. And so my mom, but also with like our family and foster care and being able to affect and transform the lives of like, Steve, when I tell you I have seen and read and heard and like the most horrific things that you can imagine happen to children, changes everything for you. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of that is my why.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, it's powerful, right? You're crystal clear on it.
Yeah.
What is your biggest struggle today?
Ooh, great question. I am jack of all trades, master of none. But, Steve, the rest of that quote that nobody says is, but still always better than a master of one. So I am thankful. I think the Lord has gifted me, and I please, like, trying to say this in like the most humble, like, if you know me, I don't brag about myself like this. I think he's gifted me with an unusually high capacity to do a lot of things at a fairly high level. And I'm really thankful for that. So my biggest issue has been being a mile wide and an inch deep. And so what I would prefer and what I'm actually now aligning myself to is now the vision of what I want my life to be and what puts me in that direction. Mm-hmm. And so I actually, I actually have like recently sold a company to I didn't even sell it. I just gave it away to the guys that helped me run it. I'm like, you guys can have this. And they're like, why? And I was like, because I have this goal and I have this vision and this just doesn't fit in that. Mm-hmm. And so for me, the biggest, what was the question?
Biggest struggle.
Yeah, the biggest struggle in my life has been direction, keeping direction and staying focused. And I could still say that is probably still my biggest struggle in my life. Mm-hmm. I'm getting the direction part, and now it's just focused. So that's the biggest struggle in my life.
It's the challenge, being good at a lot of things. And it sounds ridiculous, right? It sounds ridiculous, but
it is very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife hates it. Like, she absolutely hates that about me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I played pickleball the other day for the first time, dominated. Mm-hmm. And so like, it's just like, it sucks. It's hard. Like, it's hard. Like, 'cause then I felt bad because like, I'm like, I played with these guys that weren't very good because I was like, I've never played before. Dominated. And so like, you're right. My wife hates that I'll just pick something up and.
Well, we played basketball yesterday morning.
Yeah.
Right.
That was fun.
And you were guarding Xavier.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck, Devin. You held your own.
Hey. And I've never played organized basketball in my life.
Yeah.
I played football and I played baseball. Never basketball.
Well, but corner requires a little bit of skill.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So then how do you measure success?
Oh, man. Great question. So for me, measuring success is not a metric that's gauged by anybody else. I don't let anybody else tell me like what success is and isn't in my life. For me, it's about the value, like the direct value that I bring to the people around me. So what would be success to me is the direct impact of the people closest to me, the impact on their life and the quality of life that they have. And like, if I can measurably say the impact has been raised, the quality of life, their life has been raised because of my including in their life, then like that's success to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then superpower. I mean, you said you have a lot of powers. So what is your superpower?
So I've thought about this. You're going to hate this answer, man.
Good. I'm excited.
My journey.
Mm-hmm.
I think my journey is my superpower, man. Yeah. I have so much trauma, bro, like trauma out the freaking wazoo because of father, because of the hood, because of like just not feeling certain ways about like so much trauma that I think that has become my superpower. Mm-hmm. I also think that I have a short sleep syndrome, which is a DNA mutation that only happens in like less than 1% of the world. Mm-hmm. But I think it's in like 30% of Fortune 5 CEOs. Mm-hmm. Where you can sleep and operate off of like less than 5 hours of sleep. Mm-hmm. And I do.
Yeah.
Not because like, I'm also a firm believer in 8 hours. Get your 8 hours. I just don't need it.
Yeah.
So I think that also is probably one of them.
You know, that's what Pace said.
Really?
His superpower. He doesn't need sleep.
Awesome.
Right? You can get a lot done.
You can.
You don't need sleep. You think I was gonna hate your journeys answer?
No, because it's not like my superpower is I'm a whiz with Excel. Like, like, I don't know, early adopting. I don't know. I think it's my journey, man. Like, it's not a one specific superpower, but it's made me everything I am. And yeah.
Well, I mean, I think, we had Brad Chandler on here a couple weeks ago. He talks about how he does 253 deals. He did 253 deals last year, working an hour a week.
Damn,
right.
Respect.
And so, but he talks about like how important, or not how important, how your upbringing directly impacts everything you do.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it makes total sense.
I agree. This is a really funny story. I worked for a company called Boosterthon, which is an elementary school fundraiser. So I would go into, like, right out of college, making $15,000 a year out of college. And I would go into the classroom every single day from kindergarten to fifth graders and try to get them excited to raise money for their school fundraiser. And I can tell you that prepared me for the things that I do today on being able to sit in front of people and for like, kindergartners suck, man. They're like, you're an idiot. Like, they say the worst things about you. And so I can sit in front of people and not be fazed because I had to do this in front of kindergartners every single day, So it's really interesting, your journey and what it does.
What would your wife say is your superpower?
Okay. Probably being good at everything. That's probably the superpower she would probably say. I don't know. Well, I don't know. That's a hard question. I probably be something like that I could just pick up anything and become pretty good at it.
What's your biggest regret?
Ooh. So this is also part of like the superpower. This is very interesting. Just about a lot of things that I've done in my life, I have been the worst player on the best teams. So I was a semi-pro paintballer. It's very interesting, like X-ball. I was going to play football in college, got hurt, played baseball at a top 25 D1 college. But then I was like the worst player on the top 21 D1 college. And, but going into college, this is my regret. Going into college, I played video games professionally. And
how old or when was this?
2006.
2006?
So 2005, 2006, 2007, I played a video game called Counter-Strike. And I played on the mouse and keys professionally. And like back then though, it wasn't what it is now. Like when you won a tournament, you got a new graphics card. Like you got a new this, your team split $1,000, right? But if you were on like the main stage, then like you split like $100,000. But it's nothing what it is now. And so I got to college and I was playing baseball in college and my team was like, hey, we got practice today. And I'm like, I got baseball practice. Like, what am I going to do? And so the biggest regret of my life is that I chose to quit the team and continue to play baseball. And this is the year like Twitch came out, which like my personality, I feel like I would have done pretty well on Twitch. And so this is the year Twitch came out. And so and what I know now, and we've seen stadiums just absolutely fill up with the hundreds and thousands of people to watch people play video games, and they win some 16-year-old won $5 million at a Fortnite tournament. It's crazy.
So, and here's the thing, and there's no judgment on you. Right? No judgment.
Oh, look, whatever. Right? I am who I am.
From what I've observed on the outside looking in, you don't even have to be that great at gaming.
No.
You just have to be great on camera.
Personality.
Gaming.
Bro. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right? If you can talk to the camera while being significantly above average, B+, A-.
Steve, I still stream on Twitch sometimes.
Okay.
Which is really interesting. I'm not very popular at all.
But I'm just saying, like, you don't have to be like, you don't have to be 100%, right?
That's right.
I think if you're like B+, A- gamer, right, where you win consistently, but you're not elite, but you got a personality.
That's it.
You'll do really well.
Oh, yeah.
And I think with your personality,
I would have done
I'm probably with you on that biggest regret.
That is the biggest regret of my life.
But it wouldn't help you with your BHAG.
It would not have. That's true. My BHAG would not have been that. But I'm still the same person, so maybe it would have changed. I actually still, Steve, I can guarantee you, in the next like 5 to 6 years, I'll own an esports team.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll see it.
I've already bought the URL.
All right, so you already bought the URL. What is it?
It's Pure Flare GG. So like Pure Flare Homes is what we have. Flare is there's wording around Flare, the word Flare that I like, and so Pure Flare GG, Pure Flare Gaming. So pureflare.gg is the website. So
All right, so we're going to get Disruptors GG.
Yeah, that's right.
And
We'll start
come
one.
for yeah.
Let's get it. So yeah, I've already got the Instagram handle. I've already got the URL and everything for it.
Yeah, all right. How did you learn your greatest lesson?
By failing. I don't know what the greatest lesson is, but I've learned it by failing.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Whatever the lesson is, it's been learned by failing.
You don't have any particular lesson that like is etched into your memories more than another?
Bro, I fail so often that like, I don't know. I can't think of one. I'm gonna be honest with you, but like, I just think that also failing often and the ability to like be what's the word? It's fearlessly authentic. Is probably one of the reasons why like I'm okay with failing, because my identity is not wrapped in succeeding in that one specific thing. I am who I am, and I'll always be who I am, and I just don't care. I'm the same person right now. Y'all see on this podcast, I'm the same person in front of you any other time. Fearlessly authentic, but also I will fail fast, real fast. And that I think like that's like my biggest lesson is like, I'll fail fast, but I know that that's going to get me where I want to be faster, because then I learn that didn't work, and then I go and do something else.
And I can speak for that, right? Because I've seen you in all three different phases of your real estate journey.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Peak, crash, and here.
Yep.
So I got to see all three different phases.
Yeah, that's true, man.
Absolutely true.
Yeah, I fail fast, often.
What book have you gifted more than any other?
Oh, gifted. A couple books. So one, Don't Waste Your Life by John Piper. Really good book, Christian book on Christianity as a whole and who Jesus is. The second one would probably be, I really like, probably Good to Great. I think that's a really good book, Jim Collins.
Yeah.
Nope. How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's probably the book I've gifted the most.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I see you're probably, pretty decent at that part. Winning friends and influencing people.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
So I want you to think about some last thoughts you'd like to leave the listeners with while I make a couple of quick announcements. So, guys, we do have our virtual event coming up. It's one day, all day, virtually. So we recognize that times are tougher at this exact moment. So if you guys are looking to get better at sales, this is the only time we've ever offered virtual sales training. So December 8th, go to disruptors.com/virtual. If you want to check it out, we have the great fortune of working with the best in the country. So, we got to hear yesterday, Pace and Jamil was like, someone better. Had the opportunity to work with you and your organization. So guys, if you're looking to get better at sales, disruptors.com/virtual. We're doing this online at a price that we don't normally do it at. If you guys are interested, go check that out.
Dang. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
So what are the last thoughts you want to leave everyone with?
My biggest last thought is really live a life that is fearlessly authentic, because I think the moment that your identity becomes wrapped around something that is outside of who you actually are is the moment that you start living a life on sinking sand. Your ship's going to crumble back and forth, to and fro by the waves of the sea, right? But if you can be rooted and have a strong foundation in who authentically you are, where you want to go in your life, what that vision is, whatever that is, then I think then you are able to set that path to go that way and not be distracted by other things. And so for me, it's just I just kind of live by that, just be fearlessly authentic, man. My hope is that somebody can look at me and go, yep, that's the same Devin that I was with last night here or was here, and that I'm above reproach in my character and who I say I am, that's who I am. And that's just kind of what I want to leave people with, because it's very, very easy to be caught up in what other people think of you.
Yeah. And
when that happens, you begin to lose sight of who you are.
Well, you said something really powerful there. Once you attach your identity to something outside of your control, now you're going to, at some point or another, you're going to be pretty upset.
That's right.
Right? You're going to experience some pretty, probably traumatic unhappiness.
That's exactly right.
Someone wants to get a hold of you. What's the best way?
Best way? Devin.Robinson1 on Instagram. I'm on there pretty often. So I'll see your DMs. Yeah, that's probably a pretty easy way because like I'm happy to jump on a call. I'm happy to jump on and answer any questions. That's probably going to be the easiest way.
Yeah.
Devin.Robinson1.
Instagram, Devin.Robinson1, installmentmethod.com, wholesale2024.com.
Yes, please. Those will change your business forever. I'm a little biased, but I really think it will.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Steve. What
Appreciate
a pleasure.
it.
What an
Thank you guys
honor.
for watching. See you guys next time.
See ya.
Steve Trang. Jump on the Steve Trang. We real estate disruptors.